The United States has the world's most formidable air forces, bar none. On its own, the U.S. Air Force is the second most powerful military force the world has ever known. And yet, if a war were to break out today against China and Russia, American jets would be at a huge disadvantage. But don't worry, Uncle Sam has a plan to fix that. When Sparta's King Leonidas led his 300 allied Greek soldiers to stem the Persian forces at Thermopylae in 480 BC, he famously noted, "Your aircraft and avionics may be top-notch, but without adequate long-range missiles, your air forces are just waiting to get swatted." Historians argue on the existence of a multi-role capable Spartan Air Force at the time, but what is inarguable is that without adequate long-range weapons in the modern age of air combat, your jets are just cannon fodder for the enemy. And that's the problem, because the US currently has the shortest spear in the room. America was a little late in waking up to the fact that while it was on a decade-and-a-half bender chasing terrorists around the world, China and Russia had quietly made great leaps in advancing their own air-to-air capabilities. The end result is two different missiles, with some very impressive performance characteristics, which many point out are better than their American counterparts. Russia's contender is the R-37M, a modernized variant of the R-37 that features a dramatically increased range. The addition of a rocket booster propels the missile to as much as an estimated 400 kilometers. Though given the fact that Russia lies through its teeth about everything, a more realistic estimate is likely somewhere in the 50% to 75% range of that 400-kilometer figure. That's still significant, given that America's current BVR missile, the AIM-120D, has an estimated range of about 160 kilometers, or around 81,230.76 bald eagle wingspans for our American viewers. The missile has featured prominently in Russia's air war over Ukraine. When Russian pilots aren't busy getting blown up by their own air defenses, they occasionally get a chance to shoot at Ukrainian fighters, which report being engaged well outside of their own engagement envelopes and being forced to utilize terrain masking and ground scatter to avoid the large missiles. This has highlighted a dire need for American AIM-120s, though there are concerns that the older F-16s being provided won't have the required radar to offer a significant improvement over their current MiGs in taking on Russian fighters. The news from China is not much better, and China is more an imminent threat than Russia is for U.S. Air Forces. The PL-15 is the mainstay of the Chinese long-range BVR weapon, with an estimated range of around 200 kilometers or 8,988.3 Macho Man Randy Savages for our American viewers. However, the PL-21 has been in development since 2016 and features an improved warhead as well as an estimated 400-kilometer top range similar to the R-37M. The difference is, China may not be as full of borscht as Russia is when making military claims, though the recent discovery of mass corruption amongst the People's Liberation Army rocket forces also puts any Chinese claims into question. Europe currently fields the world's best air-to-air missile in the Meteor. Taking a break from outsourcing its defense to the US so it can build funny-looking vans, Europe developed the Meteor to meet rising threats while the United States was too busy bringing freedom to terrorists and anyone else caught in the general vicinity. The Meteor is a BVR that's highly maneuverable, extremely resistant to electronic attack, and with a range estimated in excess of 200 kilometers, or 6,834 North American Sasquatch for our American viewers. Unlike China or Russia, Europe is a pretty reliable source of information and not prone to exaggerating their own capabilities. U.S. stealth fleets may be growing, but these new threats are deadly ones for U.S. fourth-generation aircraft and specifically special mission airframes, such as tankers and AWACS platforms. That's why after taking in both the Chinese and Russian efforts, the US said, "Hold my beer," and after doing a sick belly flop from the roof into a backyard above-ground pool, got to the work of developing the tools needed to ensure domination of the future skies. If there's two things the US hates being second place in, it's military technology and firearm-related deaths. That's why the US has 6 new air-to-air missiles currently in development. The first of these missiles is the AIM-260, announced in 2019, and put into a crash development cycle as tensions heat up with China. The missile's going to be the mainstay of America's air fleets and will replace the AIM-120 as the primary beyond visual range weapon. Given its importance, details are extremely scarce, as the US government has kept details highly classified, and nobody has violated national security over it to win an internet argument on the War Thunder forums, yet. The importance of shooting first can't be understated in air-to-air combat. In Ukraine, UAF pilots are consistently forced to break off their attacks due to incoming Russian missiles. Ukrainian sources claim that even Russia's R-37M missiles aren't actually scoring many kills, but their extreme range is forcing Ukrainian pilots to maneuver off and keep them away from the front lines, which is just as good when your opponent can't shoot back. Russian missile seekers are probably nothing more than old iPhone 4s duct taped to a nose cone. But when incoming missiles force you into evasive maneuvers, they're doing their job, and they're leaving you vulnerable for further attack. That's why the US wants to retain first shoot capability with the AIM-260. Range, speed, and sensors remain classified, but we do know the missile will be roughly the same size as the AIM-120 while providing increased range and will likely utilize a rocket booster. Estimates place the missile's projected range at somewhere over 200 kilometers, or 656,146 CVS receipts for our American viewers. The use of a rocket booster will rapidly propel the missile to speed and high up into the atmosphere, where the air is thin and the atmospheric drag is greatly reduced. The disposable rocket booster also lowers the missile's overall weight by getting rid of unnecessary mass, much in the same way as a space rocket jettisons stages to increase efficiency. The long-range engagement weapon was originally meant to be the official successor to the AIM-120, but all the way back in 2017, the missile was already proving to be far too large to be carried internally by American stealth fighters. Rather than canceling development, though, the missile was instead approved, as its greatly increased range over even the AIM-260 meant that America's fourth-gen boomer aircraft could still take part in the fight. The missile could also be carried externally, allowing for next-gen fleets to operate in waves and support each other. The first wave would carry weapons internally and engage intercepting or defending enemy fighters with AIM-260s or similar missiles, while those in the second wave and carrying weapons externally, thus having a larger radar cross-section, stay out of range of enemy fighters and lob long-range weapons into the mix, or even at support platforms like enemy AWACS. But a recent revelation about America's next-generation B-21 Raider raises an interesting possibility. While discussing its functionality, U.S. sources have repeatedly stated that the Raider is not just a strategic bomber, but could carry out a host of other duties, including reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and surprisingly engaging enemy fighters. With its larger weapons bay, the B-21 may be able to fit the LREW internally and fly quarterback for the next-generation fighter fleet, while bringing a significant number of air-to-air missiles into the mix. It would be the first of its kind and a true game-changer. The F-15EX, however, is also an excellent candidate, having been turned into a missile truck capable of carrying 12 missiles at a time. Fellas, next time someone tells you impressive things don't come in small packages, point them to the third missile the U.S. is developing to ensure air supremacy, known as the Peregrine, after the Hunting Falcon. This missile is astonishingly pint-sized compared to its more contemporary counterparts, about half the size of a current AIM-120. The Peregrine allegedly has the same or even slightly better range and even more maneuverability. The project was self-funded by Raytheon because, frankly, nobody believed them when they said they could build a missile half the size with better performance than the AIM-120. What new exotic fuel powers this midget monster? Nobody knows because details are highly classified, but some engineers believe it's the tears of haters in the comments section. Raytheon alleges that the missile also has a tri-mode seeker, though what that means exactly is a mystery. It's believed the missile might pack both radar and infrared guidance, increasing its lethality against stealthy targets. Raytheon itself states that the missile is a mid-range weapon for use against drones, aircraft, and even cruise missiles. The advantage of the Peregrine is immediately obvious. With its smaller size, a stealth aircraft can carry more internally. Payload limitation is one of stealth aircraft's biggest flaws, with the F-35 only able to carry 4 or 6 now with the Sidekick upgrade, AIM-120s. Given the focus on increased ranges for new generations of missiles, it is possible that the Peregrine is specifically developed for extremely stealthy aircraft to be able to get very close to the line of contact. Aircraft such as the disposable stealthy UCAVs, or possibly even the B-21 Raider, which would allow either bomber to deliver a swarm of missiles against enemy fighters. One of the newest and most secretive missiles on this list is the new Modular Advanced Missile, or MAM. Details on this are incredibly scarce. Given that the world only learned of its existence through the discovery of the program as a side note in the Air Force's Research Development Test and Evaluation budget for 2023, it's believed that this new missile is being built from the ground up to be completely modular, allowing for easy and fast swap in and out of everything from booster sections to seeker heads. This would allow the missile to remain flexible as it faces different and evolving threats. For example, fielding an infrared-guided missile that gives off no emissions and thus is very difficult to detect. Said missile could receive course corrections via long-range data link from third-party sensors, allowing both the missile and its launch platform to remain stealthy by not giving off any emissions. The modularity of the booster section could also make the missile flexible and fit different aircraft on demand. By removing sections, it could be made small enough to fit inside an F-35, or more sections could be added so the missile could be carried internally in a B-21 for long-range engagements, or on wing pylons of stealth aircraft operating as the second offensive or defensive line, but still within reach to hurt the enemy aircraft at very long ranges. Going back to small packages with explosive results, Lockheed Martin's CUDA missile, or Small Advanced Capabilities Missile, is a Peregrine-like weapon currently under evaluation since 2019. The weapon is also meant to address the shortfall of limited internal payload capacity on stealth aircraft, and it promises to allow an F-35 or an F-22 to carry as many as triple the missiles, while retaining the range of modern AIM-120s. One way it achieves this is by removing the warhead entirely. This is normally a significant portion of the dead weight that a missile carries around. The AIM-120's warhead makes up about 1/8 of the missile's weight, but the CUDA isn't downing enemy fighters by delivering strongly worded warnings. It's a hit-to-kill missile that destroys enemy aircraft the good old-fashioned way. To achieve this, the missile needs to be highly maneuverable, as most air-to-air missiles don't actually impact their targets to achieve kills. Instead, they get close to a target and then detonate their fragmentation warheads, creating a bunch of little holes in things aircraft engineers did not intend to have holes in. The advantage of the CUDA is in the ability for stealth aircraft to carry a significant amount of them. If the claim of triple payload capacity is true, and Lockheed Martin, creator of the Littoral Combat Ship, definitely never overpromises and underdelivers. Boeing's long-range air-to-air missile is an ambitious and promising program that'll solve one of the biggest problems of long-range combat engagement. While both China and Russia field extreme-range air-to-air missiles, as Ukrainian pilots have pointed out, by the time the Russian R-37 missiles are close enough to be a threat, they've expended nearly all of their energy. This makes them easy to dodge at the upper envelope of the missile's range. But again, it does disrupt the target's ability to fight back. Unless engagements are at very short ranges, the missiles don't burn all the way to the target. Rather, they typically have an initial burn phase where the missile arcs high up into the sky, where the atmosphere is less dense and there's less drag. The solid rocket fuel is spent very early in the missile's flight, leaving it to coast off pure momentum until impact. To increase maneuverability, the missile then pounces down on a target from above, but at this stage it's completely unpowered and has lost significant energy. The LRAM is meant to solve this problem. Details are scarce, as usual, but it's believed that the missile is a multi-stage weapon meant to increase the amount of energy the kill vehicle has toward the end of its flight path. The kill vehicle itself is believed to have a thrust vectoring motor, which would dramatically increase its ability to maneuver and ensure lethality even at extreme ranges. With 6 air-to-air missiles in official testing and development, the U.S. military seems to be taking a layered approach to future air combat. Highly stealthy platforms like the B-21 or stealthy and expendable UCAVs can deliver high numbers of smaller missiles at closer ranges than even stealth fighters. Meanwhile, traditional stealth fighters can engage at medium to long ranges with fewer but larger missiles carried internally. In the third line of attack, fourth-generation aircraft or stealth fighters in murder configuration, missiles on wing pylons, can engage from the safety of distance with extremely long-range missiles. This layered approach appears to be aimed at significantly complicating the threat environment for an enemy and meant to keep them off balance and on the defensive. Now go check out the US World War III plan, or click this other video instead.